Welcome back. This is the video about the wildest, most mind-blowing severance theories floating around. And with Season 3 officially confirmed, praise Kier, I've rounded up the most insane, compelling, and straight-up bizarre theories that might just change the way you see the show. Was that actually Helena at the end of the finale? Could the entire town of Kier be severed? And what's really going on with Ricken and those goats? We're breaking it all down using all the evidence we have. Some of these theories might hold real weight, while others? Well, only time will tell. And hey, before we dive in, make sure to like, subscribe, and check out my Severance Season 2 finale explained video when you're done. All right, let's get into it. Let's start with a big one. What if everyone in Kier has been severed, or at least was at some point? First, let's talk about the town itself. Kier feels completely cut off from the rest of the world, almost severed, if you will. It even has its own state abbreviation, PE, and aside from Salt's Neck, we haven't really seen much of the world beyond its borders. Now, Severance creator Dan Erickson said he wanted Kier to feel unmoored from time and space. And honestly, that vibe extends to the people too. And here's where it gets weird. What if the town is actually where Lumen dumped early test subjects from the Severance project? The best example? Ricken and his friends. They're highly intellectual, but act like children. Remember in episode 1 when Patton questioned why World War I wasn't called World War I at the time?
No one would have called it World War I because World War II hadn't happened yet.
Or how he freaked out like a kid when he found baby Eleanor. And then there's Rebecca, who casually mentions she has sores on the back of her head in episode 9.
And I have some sores on the back of my head from my bird. You might see them.
What if those aren't just sores? What if they're from multiple failed attempts to implant a severance chip in her skull? And this part? This will blow your mind. Every severed employee has their first name followed by a last initial. Mark S., Dylan G. But Ricken's group? They have names like Ricken, who could be Rick N., or Patton, who could be Pat N. Rebecca said her name was Rebecca.
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 Could her name be actually Rebecca A? Wild, right? But it gets crazier. All right, buckle up, because this next theory takes us straight into goat territory. Ricken is one of the weirdest characters in the show, and there's a growing theory that he's actually an early Lumen test subject, or maybe even the outie of one of the goats in Mammalion's Nurturable. Yeah, you heard me right. Here's the evidence. In the UUR, Ricken talks about his childhood. His parents were arrested, and he presumably ended up in foster care. What better test subject for Lumen than an orphan? He interned at a honey factory, which could have been run by Lumen. And we know Lumen loves bee imagery. There's a Bee Ever Merry poster in the break room and a beehive code word in security. He has a weirdly deep connection to the innies, almost like he's been severed before. And then there are the goats. Ricken has a bell app on his phone, just like the bell Lorne uses for the goats. His house is surrounded by goat statues. At his dinner party, everyone except Mark and Devin wears earth-toned, goat-like outfits. The cover of Ricken's book has sun god imagery that matches the blaring sun behind the sacrificial goat in that one creepy scene. He loves climbing mountains like, well, a goat. And here's where things get truly out there. What if Lumen found a way to implant severed human consciousness into animals and vice versa? Drummond even says during the goat sacrifice that the goat will be entombed to a cherished woman, probably Gemma. So, are these goats carrying the fragmented minds of severed people? Or do these people carry parts of goats' minds? I don't know, but the connections are insane. What if the mysterious Lumen board isn't an actual group of people, but is instead a motherboard, as in a literal AI system storing the consciousnesses of past Lumen CEOs? The ultimate goal? To eventually upload these minds in a new body so they can live forever. Now, we have heard the board speak before, but only in muffled voices. In episode 8, when Cobell asks if the board is there, we hear a man say yes.
Yes.
This could be James Egan, the only living person on the board. And here's something weird. In episode 3, Helena says she and Cobell can just call the board to discuss her employment. Like, what board can just assemble at a moment's notice on a weeknight? And then there's the revolving, Jaime Egan tells Helly that one day she'll sit with him at his revolving. What if that's the moment when a CEO dies and their consciousness is uploaded into the board? And if you think this is too sci-fi for Severance, just remember the perpetuity wing. It's filled with mannequins of past Lumen CEOs. What if those mannequins aren't just statues? What if they're actually vessels for these consciousnesses? Now let's talk about one of the most debated theories. Was that really Helly at the end of the finale? Or was it actually Helena? Actress Britt Lower, who plays Helly, has outright denied that the character we see in the final moments is Helena. But let's be real. Actors have been known to bend the truth to keep a show's twists under wraps. So is there any actual evidence to support this theory? Honestly, not much. The Helly who helps Mark complete Cold Harbor seems to be the same Helly we've known all along. One key clue, she mentions Delaware, the same state she referenced on her first day of work in episode 101. Could Helena have watched security footage and memorized that detail just in case? Sure, but that's a bit of a stretch. For this theory to hold water, there would have to be a Glasgow block performed at some point, basically a reset of Helly's mind to swap her with Helena. Maybe James pulled some strings to get his daughter in place to stop Mark. But there's no solid evidence of that happening. Some fans point to Helly's look toward Gemma in the finale as a kind of smug, victorious glance, suggesting that she's actually Helena, reveling in her win. But that interpretation doesn't quite align with what we know about Helly's character.
Helly was never cruel.
So for now, I'm calling this one unlikely. But if you want to dive deeper into why Mark chose Helly over Gemma, I break that all down in my Season 2 finale explained video, so be sure to check that out. What's next? There's so much more I could talk about, but I want to hear from you. Which of these theories do you think could be true? And which ones are total nonsense? Do you think the entire town of Kier is severed? Is Ricken really a goat? And what the hell is the board actually up to? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let me know which theories you want me to dive into next. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out my Severance Season 2 finale explained video for even more mind-blowing insights. Until next time, stay out of the break room.